You're listening to the Raw Reaction on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Raw Reaction. It is your host for tonight, Rob the Many, accompanied by my co-hosts for the evening. Introduce yourself, sir.
My friend, Rob, thank you for that introduction. This is Big Vic on the airwaves. Thank you for that lovely introduction, Rob. Kevin, great work on that music there. Looking forward to discussing an interesting episode of Raw. We had some high points in the early middle part of the show, some low points, and then interesting ending. So why don't we get started? Before we get started, I just want to give a very special shout out to a cause that's very near and dear to my heart. I've actually I've been telling Kev about this a little bit off the air. I've actually gotten a relationship with a young lady who I've met over the internet, and I found her. No, not on Craigslist, Killer Kev. I found her on this incredible website, WrestleWork.com. Let me tell you, my friend, this is where I was looking for girls to do some apartment wrestling, and this girl stole my heart. I haven't met her yet, but she does have my social security number, all my bank account information. So I think that sooner or later we're going to get together and we're going to really make some magic here.
Yes, we are. So, the best way to get this off started in the right way, why don't we talk about the lowlights first? And the best way to do that is to talk about this just god-awful start of this Raw tonight. Seth Rollins comes out, and the best way I could describe it would be like WWE tried to take "This is the moment of your life" Rock segment with Mick Foley, insert Seth Rollins with the Authority group, and try to best do an abomination of that, except that they're heels, and it was awful, and I had to hear a car horn honking for like an hour, and I was ready to punch my TV set, and I also fell asleep mid-promo.
Okay, well, I didn't fall asleep mid-promo, but I did flat out pretty much not watch it, so It was pretty horrible. I mean, okay, you know what? Great job last week with the Lesnar beatdown, but it was pretty tacky. I almost felt like it was The Price is Right. I mean, they're flashing the sticker price.
Oh, no, it was, because, I mean, basically the segment was there just to get sponsorships. I mean, it was very blatant. I mean, Apple watches, cars, and they named like the full car. It was clear what they were doing. They were basically doing like, remember those back in the day, like a couple months ago when Adam Rose was doing all those backstage segments on Raw, and basically he was like sponsoring Sonic. Yeah, this is the same idea, except that they had the nerve to start to show off like that.
You know what?
Yeah.
I thought a little differently. I thought that tonight must have been like a swap a job night, and I thought that here you had Seth Rollins as the host of The Price is Right, and later on tonight we were going to see Drew Carey make his Raw debut in an intergender tag team match. Yeah,
you know what? That would have been a welcome change to the way the storyline started out there. I mean, it was atrocious. I mean, there was really no interaction. It was just sort of like 15 minutes of just really tacky, cheesy gloating over a beatdown of Brock Lesnar.
Let's not forget that we've seen this story before, just a few months ago. I mean, I literally walked away from wrestling for 2 months because I couldn't take it anymore. And I come back, and the Authority has broken up. Seth Rollins has to do an apology, and the Authority gets back together. I've literally seen this one like twice already prior to this. That's another part of that made this segment go over even worse. And you factor in that the crowd really didn't give Rollins or anybody a reaction. They got mostly a go-away heat.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty bad. I mean, I would have rather seen them in the ring and seen some expressions. They didn't do this in the ring. They did the segment out on the side, and I see these guys all happy around their car. And I mean, there's no real interaction with any faces there. Nothing really to set up anything later in the show. I'll tell you what, though, this is gonna spoil the ending of the show, or I guess not really spoil it because nothing happened. But the one thing I was very disappointed about was seeing that at the end of the show, J&J Security's brand new car, which was pimped out very much, and was showed as a $55,000 car, and it was a huge deal, did not get filled with cement or beer or milk or compacted or something. Like, there's nothing, no real destruction of the car, because I can almost guarantee you that after 2 weeks there will be no more mention of that car.
Oh yeah, I guarantee you that. And I mean, to be honest, I live tweet, Raw, during, like, on Twitter, and that was kind of everybody's guess, is that somebody was going to take that car and do something heinous to it. And it didn't happen. I mean, I guess it was just, I don't know, maybe they didn't want to upset the sponsor or what, but I mean, it was just kind of a rough start for me as far as like a Raw. It just kind of was like, oh, so this is what I get when I walk away for 2 months. And this is the first thing I'm going to see. It was just a rough sit for me. And then to top it off, I got a Show versus Mark Henry match.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, really who we're supposed to really hate there more. I guess Mark Henry's the good guy now.
Yeah, but that's the problem is, I mean, I haven't watched it too much, but I mean, everybody on Twitter was saying, well, since when is Mark Henry a babyface? Like, he kind of subtly turned babyface like right before I stopped watching, like 2 months ago, but it was never like really official. He never really did anything super like obvious. All he really did was come out and challenge like Reigns to a match, and like when Reigns beat him, he kind of put him over. That was his babyface turn, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't know. I feel like Mark Henry is I feel like he's almost the Big Show, only without the drama behind the turns. I mean, Big Show, he turns every 3 months, it seems like. But, I mean, there's always some build up and some suspense where he turns his back or he's some inner conflict or something. But Mark Henry, he just sort of comes out like to react to whoever I need to. I mean, if Kane's the heel who's going to supposed to.
Yeah, it was a rough start for me. I was kind of like really not really super interested. But then we kind of got like, involvement as far as like Ryback and Miz, which was kind of mystifying to me because, I mean, like I said, like 2 months, venturing away from WWE, jumping back in. Miz has moved away from Mizdow, and I really didn't understand like at all like the conflict between him and Ryback, and like how like we're supposed to care about a 3-way match for the Intercontinental Belt between him, Show, and Ryback and Miz. It was just kind of really confusing for somebody who just comes out of nowhere to watch an episode of Raw. And try to figure out what was going on. I mean, I give Miz credit. I thought he did a decent job on commentary. But it all kind of led to just basically Miz getting a cheap shot, setting up the fact that he's perfectly content to kind of let Big Show and Ryback beat the crap out of each other and pick up whatever's left over. And I mean, I've seen that storyline a billion times, but out of everything that I saw tonight, I thought this was a decent build. And for that to be said about a mid-card match at best is a bit problematic.
Yeah, I will give them credit. They've been building this up to this match for the last 2 months here. So, I mean, I'll give them a little bit of credit there. The problem is, nobody gives a crap. I mean, maybe Ryback versus Miz, putting the Big Show in it and sort of having him as almost a main attraction there, just not doing it for me. I mean, I really enjoyed the Miz and Ryback match that we had later on in the show. Ryback was actually, or I guess Miz was actually putting up a fairly good fight against Ryback.
Yeah, but my problem is that, Miz is the bad guy. Miz is the heel. He didn't really want to do that match. He said he wasn't going to do that match. And then inexplicably, with no GM, no Kane, no nobody, the match just goes on exactly how Ryback says it. Next, after the commercial break, and Miz goes in, they do a so-so match, and then Miz runs away. This made no sense logically from a heel's mind. If he wanted to run away, he should have ran away from the start. That's the only thing, I get it. They're out there to fill TV time. They have 3 hours to work with. They probably couldn't literally just have Miz run away and call it a day. But it doesn't make sense logically, because Miz's whole thing is, he's going to protect his face. He's going to let Show and Ryback beat the crap out of each other. For him to wrestle at all, kind of gives away a little bit of what his whole thing is that he's bringing to the three-way.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I like Miz as a heel, and I like him in his match. I like it much better than on the last pay-per-view where he had Big Show versus Ryback. I mean, even though he was involved with that, and I mean, he's been involved in the feud leading up to it. I mean, I feel like he's adding some color to it, and I can see him walking out the champ with something like that, and hopefully, I don't know. I feel like Ryback, I mean, he could be a little bit better in the title picture. I just don't feel like putting him in a feud with Big Show is getting him over as the champ. I mean, look at what John Cena is doing with another mid-card championship.
Well, it's not so much that it's not impressive to beat Show. I mean, as much as we hate Show, he does have a lot of material on his background to give enough of a push to Ryback. It's the fact that Show's gone from babyface to heel to heel, heel to babyface to heel to babyface, so many times that we just don't care about what he's doing. And it's kind of gotten to the point where he really, really, really needs to retire. And he's not doing people enough of a favor jobbing out to them. He's not giving them enough rub because he's overexposed himself, and they've misused him during his prime too much to where now when it's time for him to lose to people, it doesn't matter as much. That's the problem. It's not really so much a Ryback problem. It's just who he's squared up against. And they do this time and time again. They never learn. Daniel Bryan feuded with Kane. Let's see, Zack Ryder feuded with Kane. First feud out should be with somebody who is fresher than somebody like Kane or Big Show or somebody that, you're like, okay, I kind of really interested to see these two pair off over this title and see where it goes. And then maybe you set up like a Kane or Big Show match after the first guy, kind of be like, hey, I've been around a while. You beat that guy, but beat somebody who's been around as long as me, kind of thing would work a lot better. Like maybe second, third guy down the line kind of defense versus first guy out of the box. It just kind of reminds people, man, this guy's been world champion like 5 times, 6 times, and now I got to watch him go for the IC belt when I don't care about him that much. It's just kind of rubs salt in the wound.
Yeah, exactly, man. I think you're spot on there. I mean, you basically go into a match, even Ryback going against Big Show, it's either going to be a disqualification, a walkout, or Ryback's going to win. Basically, I can't really see Big Show winning a somewhat substantial match. I mean, he's almost like the ultimate, just the guy who just goes out there and puts people over.
The next match I want to talk about, I'll let you talk about it a little bit more because Paige and Fox come out, they're doing their thing, and they do like the setup of why they're wrestling. And all I know is that Paige is hot. I find her extremely attractive, and yet I still fell asleep during this match. So that tells you just how much I cared about this match.
All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you. I do not find Paige attractive at all. She may be the least attractive diva of them all.
You're crazy.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the sickly, ghostly pale look that Paige.
Well, see, like I'm a metalhead, so that's kind of my thing.
Okay, all right. Well, hey, you know what? To each their own.
Yeah, I saw that video where she played lightsabers with some little kid, and I was just like, yeah, she needs to play with my lightsaber.
That's pretty much spot on. Then I think you've met your match. Is she single?
Technically, she's just dating some dude to just basically get a dick. That's about it. I am not though. I am married, so.
Say you could be that dick. You could be that dick. Paige,
no, I cannot.
Like you have listened to our podcast in the past.
Paige could be butt naked in front of me, and I still would not cheat on my wife. Like, call me lame, but she's hot, but not that hot.
AngryMarks.com, just give him a call. And test his moral aptitude.
So, what was the build-up between Fox theoretically turning heel for, I don't know, the 50th time? Like, it's kind of mystifying because Alicia Fox, I think, has the best charisma, out of like models turned wrestlers that I've seen. Obviously I'm not going to include her in the likes of, Bayley or, Miss Flair or people like that. But I'm saying, like, prior to those people being a thing in NXT, I saw glimpses and stuff like that from Fox prior, way back in the day when she kind of turned heel initially. I don't know, probably close to like 2009, 2010, somewhere around there. And then they kind of inexplicably just kind of turned her tweener, and she kind of faded into the background. And now she's kind of subtly heel again. So, I mean, I think this is the best role for her, but like, can you kind of explain to somebody who's just walking in, like, what the deal is?
I don't know. Apparently, everybody hates Nikki Bella and Brie Bella, and Paige is trying to get everybody to unite against them, but everybody hates Paige more. So everybody is sort of, because they're not with Paige, are sort of almost a pseudo heel here, which is what this match seemed to scream out, was that it was more or less a 3-on-1 match with the Bellas running some interference there, and Paige ended up pulling out a win. I mean, this is actually a pretty solid match. It lasted probably about 10 minutes. I mean, some decent back and forth action there between these ladies. But I mean, I don't know if this win is going to be something where, hey, it starts building a momentum for Paige. I really don't know where they're going with this angle. I don't know if somebody's going to come up from NXT and have Paige's back, or if somebody on the main roster is finally going to say, hey, you know what, we hate the Bellas and we're going to join you and put them out of business. I would think it's probably going to be something out of NXT that comes up, because, I don't know, nobody really does it for me in the Divas division right now.
But, I don't think Charlotte would be a perfect fit for that role.
I don't think she's a perfect fit, but you know what? People will actually give a shit about Charlotte because she's Ric Flair's.
Would you not agree that, I mean, out of the divas from the NXT roster, Becky Lynch would be the best fit for like the kind of odd girl who isn't quite the normal Barbie doll?
To be honest with you, I don't watch NXT enough.
Oh, okay.
But,
well, in my opinion, she would be the best like personality fit, except for maybe, Bayley would be another interesting fit, because, you could kind of play off of Paige's kind of somewhat dark nature, and Bayley's so the opposite. It can kind of be like goth versus like, I don't know, I guess a little bit prepubescent, childlike kind of happiness. And it would just kind of be like an interesting play on those two dynamics.
I was going to say you could always just go team her up with Emma.
Yeah, but we've tried that on the main roster and it didn't work out so great.
Yeah, Emma's not that. She's not that great. And
I mean, I think we know it's going to be Charlotte and it's going to be Bayley and it's going to be the current NXT Women's Champion. I can't remember her name right now. Those are the people that could possibly be called up to the WWE roster. They're the most ready. I think, people like that need just a little bit more time, especially Emma. She's got to establish something that's catches on with the NXT crowd before she could be called up again. Because, I think they were burned last time by calling her up by something they thought would work because it worked in NXT.
Yeah, and as we've seen with Adam Rose, just because a gimmick works in NXT doesn't mean that the WWE universe is not going to freaking hate you.
That gimmick was I know people don't really particularly like Adam Rose until they saw the ESPN thing, but I liked that gimmick right from the start. I thought the way to go heel though was to completely cut them off. Be like, listen, you've been partying on my dime, blah 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 blah. I'm going to cut you away and completely have them stop coming out with him. That was the way to go, but instead he tried to do that with them still coming out. And I think that's kind of what ruined the heel turn for him. I've said pretty much from the get-go that there was something about Adam that I liked, and I couldn't quite really put my finger on it. But like most of those feelings I get, it didn't quite work out. I felt that way about Zack Ryder. Sure, he popped for a little bit, but he was subsequently buried. I felt that way about Adam Rose. Subsequently kind of pushed, buried. And I kind of felt that way about Drew McIntyre way back in the day. And he was subsequently pushed and then buried. So I don't really have a super great track record of picking people inexplicably that there's something that they do that I like. And I think that they have something. And it never really quite works out for me. And I'm not really quite sure. I guess it just means that I'm not super great at being a talent scout.
Yeah, I was going to say, you might not want to drop your resume off at Triple H at NXT.
But what happened next there on Raw?
After that, it was a decent match, interesting ending. Good for Paige getting a win. Who knows what that results in next week? But I'm sure it'll build up to some sort of match on the Battleground pay-per-view. Next up, we have John Cena comes out, and actually, this was probably before, during, and after this match. It was probably the peak as far as the audience interaction there. They were hot for this match. They were hot for Cena coming out, whether you love him or hate him. They were going apeshit over him. That was pretty nice to see. It was a Chicago crowd, so you sort of expect. It was Chicago, right, Kev? I think it was Chicago. But anyway, it was a pretty hot crowd. They were booing the hell out of Cena. They were cheering Cena. He came out to do his U.S. Open challenge, the title challenge.
Which was interesting for me because, like I said, you walk away from something for 2 months. You expect to see some changes, but it's not like a super long time. So I also expect to see some of the same things. And I could probably have predicted that Cena would still be U.S. champ, would still be doing the U.S. Open Challenge, still be wrestling, half decent matchups with mid-card talent. And that's kind of what we got here. It was a really good, solid TV match with Cesaro. And I'm really not that surprised. Cesaro is a really excellent worker, should be higher up the card. If talent and work rate had anything to do with why you get to be a star, he would be a lot higher on the card. And we got to see tonight why he deserves a bigger push, but that he'll never get because he happens to be Swedish. Because Vince McMahon is an old man, doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. You okay? Uh-oh.
Oops, looks like we lost him there for a moment.
Yeah, I just didn't know if you guys lost me or if I lost him. So, yeah.
WWE lost us all.
You know what? I'm back. I don't know what's going on. My Skype is just has a mind of its own tonight. You there?
Yeah, that's okay, dude. Like, it happens. Cena, like we were saying, Cena and Cesaro was a really excellent match, but, for all the ranting that when this started, that this was going to make the mid-carders mean a lot more, I gotta say, I really don't see it. Most of the guys that Cena's wrestled during these open challenges are still at the same place that they were before he wrestled them. I point to Neville for example number one, and I really don't see this helping, any superstar get to the next level, and that was supposedly what this whole thing was supposed to be doing.
You know what? I couldn't disagree more. I mean, I've been watching the last 2 months, and I've loved Cena's work. I mean,
yeah, but I'm not talking about the matches. The matches are perfectly acceptable. I'm not talking about the matches. The matches from the start have been good, but who has it helped? Who has gone out there, wrestled a really good match with Cena, and Vince McMahon and Triple H have seen the light and changed the level of push that they were giving the guy? Name one guy who wrestling with Cena and losing to Cena has pushed beyond where they were.
I'm going to go with Neville. I mean, I think he was going to get
he lost tonight. He literally just lost tonight.
Yeah, but he's still getting pushed into he's upper mid card where, I mean, he could have, if he didn't come out and wrestle Cena necessarily, I mean, he could be down there wrestling Adam Rose or Zack Ryder. I mean, he's wrestling some pretty big matches, and I mean,
I guess we view a push a little bit different. When I say push, I mean name a mid-carder who has ascended to like Elimination Chamber. I'm in the World Championship picture level.
I mean, it's only been going on for 2 months, and I mean, he's gotten Kevin Owens, is probably the best heel in WWE right now, against him. After he finished up with a feud with Rusev, which he was basically pushing him to higher limits. And this isn't his first match against Cesaro either. I mean,
such a good transition. Like, I know we've been going in order, but we can totally skip the next match just to get onto that topic. Now that you brought it up, thank you for doing that. It's such a good transition. Can we talk about the Jerry Springer / Maury type atmosphere around the Rusev and Dolph Ziggler feud?
What? To be honest with you,
I just totally disagree with you, because after losing to Cena like a triple million times, he is now in a feud basically with Dolph Ziggler for basically just over women, and whether or not they care or they don't care, and it's a 4-way love triangle that included a cat fight. Like, basically, I literally like flashed back to when I was in high school and Jerry Springer was a thing, and like people just sat there and argued.
Yeah. To be honest with you, all I have to say about that is, number one, he's injured, so he's not really going to be putting on any matches. And number two, it's a 3-hour show. You got to fill it with some crap. And this was crap. But I'll say, and I know Angry Tensai will say it as well, I don't know about Killer Kev. Killer Kev, I'd be interested to get your opinion here. What are your thoughts on John Cena's U.S. Open, his U.S. Open title thing? Is it good enhancing talent? I mean, the matches are solid. I mean, I've seen these guys lose in defeat, but look good in losing in defeat, like Kevin Owens did at the last paper. Yeah, I mean, even tonight, like Cesaro, same thing. I mean, win or lose, it was a hell of a match. I mean, the Cena matches over the last 2 months, they've been some of his best work.
Yeah, they definitely have been. I've really enjoyed like every single one of these Cena matches, and I don't know. One thing I think is getting a little bit over abused by the announcers on these matches is it's like every single match, the comments like, so-and-so is pushing Cena to the limit tonight. Like, yeah, we get it. Just appreciate the fact that Cena is a good wrestler, and he's putting over these other guys, and these other guys are pretty much all willing to job for him, and overall these matches are just great. Just accept it.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, and I feel like over the last couple months, I feel like every star that has kicked out of the attitude adjustment, and Cena's kicked out of his finishing move. So I almost feel like there's no finishing moves anymore with Cena. There's going to be it's going to take like 2 or 3 finishing moves before you actually have a chance to get a pin against it.
Yeah,
Which
unfortunately.
I like because it gives it like a big main event pay-per-view type, 5-0 people, and
But it also buries the finishes. And by the way, your audio is breaking up really bad.
mine is.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Kev, you know what's going on here? Do you want me to hang up or?
Audio's fine on this end.
Okay, you guys are coming in loud and clear.
Might be on my end. Sorry about that.
No problem. But yeah, I mean, I think overall, I think this is a good use for Cena. I mean, I've liked what I've seen, and I mean, he's getting decent mid-card talent, and I feel like, I mean, Cesaro's been out for a month or 2 since what's his name got hurt, but I feel like we're gonna see Cesaro come back now. I mean, it's interesting to see if after this feud with Kevin Owens, if Cesaro and Kevin Owens don't start a feud based on this. I mean, I wouldn't. It's very easy for somebody like Cesaro. I mean, he's so over with the real wrestling fan demographic that, I mean, he wrestles Kevin Owens, who's an uber heel now, and I mean that's going to help shoot him into the stratosphere. I think he could be maybe not the main event, but I mean he could be probably the best match at a pay-per-view. Similar,
But I mean, along the lines of for every good thing, like I would say Cesaro versus Cena was a good thing. It's a great match. It seemed like tonight's Raw would put out a particularly bad segment, like the Jerry Springer, like a lost episode of Jerry Springer between Rusev and Dolph Ziggler. We were talking about it a bit before the show started, so I kind of know where you are on this, but I kind of want to give it to the podcast fans out there. I mean, we are one of the longest running wrestling podcasts in the world. So I feel like they deserve to kind of hear your thoughts on about this feud and how it's progressed and where you think it is. I mean, from an outsider's viewpoint, not watching in 2 months. The last time I saw Rusev, he was facing off against Cena, losing for like the 4th time. And then that was the last time I watched. So, I mean, I have no bearing on this. The only thing I saw coming out of it was that when I stopped watching, Rusev and Lana were on the fritz. And now Dolph and Lana are kind of together. And they're kind of doing a whole storyline around that. So, I mean, you could take it from there. But, I mean, just from an outsider's viewpoint, it seemed really campy. Felt like it was like a lost storyline from the Attitude Era that was a little bit tamer, but kind of felt like not quite like the height of the Attitude Era, but kind of like when WWE kind of wanted to buck the trend and kind of defy like the critics, like around like 2000, 2001, when they were still trying to do the Attitude Era, but they were obviously out of it because, the world had moved on and kind of moved away from, Stern and Springer and that kind of like anti-PC stuff. And this kind of seemed like quite that type of era, type of storyline where like, Vince McMahon was making out with Trish Stratus, while his wife was in a wheelchair comatose. Like this is that type of storyline.
Yeah. You know what? The storyline absolutely sucks. It's, like I said, Raw's a 3-hour show. It's not a great storyline at all. But I'd rather see this. You know what? I'd rather see Dolph Ziggler in the ring with Rusev leading up to a possible match down the road than I'd rather see Dolph Ziggler in the ring with Adam Rose beating him in 3 minutes.
That's interesting because do you feel like it's helping Dolph Ziggler be a babyface? Because I didn't get that reaction. I got the feedback from the crowd that these two almost leaned heel
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I was saying to Kev before you got on that, I mean, I could see this possibly being I could see Lana getting back with Rusev and WWE fans almost inadvertently turning on Ziggler, which I don't think they're really shooting for here. I feel like they want to keep Ziggler as a face, but again, I don't know where this leads up to. I mean, maybe this is a second Divas match at the Battleground pay-per-view where you have Ziggler and Rusev in each other's corner, and then it leads to a SummerSlam match. I'm not sure on the Ziggler or on the Rusev timeline for recovery. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing a feud between the two of these guys and having it be personal and be a pretty big deal. I think they could put on a hell of a match together.
I agree, because Dolph would sell the shit out of most of, Rusev's offense. The question is like how much of Dolph's offense would be believable? Because, I mean, Steve Austin could be pretty critical of a lot of Dolph Ziggler's work, and I don't know how involved you are with wrestling, but I got a peek behind the curtain for a cup of coffee, and I know how the business works. And Steve Austin, in a lot of his critiques, is kind of right on Dolph. He does kind of feed a little too much to his opponent. It kind of sells a little too much, and it makes his offense kind of not come off as great.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I'd rather have him sell too much than not have him sell enough, because, I mean, I don't know. There's just enough wrestlers out there who are worried about not taking. I almost view him as sort of like a Shawn Michaels or Ric Flair, how he can take a hit and sell it. I mean, it might be over exaggerated, but he's sort of the type of wrestler who can really make it look over and go over the edge with it, where he's like Shawn Michaels take a super kick or take a move and just flipping all over the place, prowling over the place. And again, I mean, I'm not comparing him to Shawn Michaels or Ric Flair at this point, but I mean, I think that he's one of the more entertaining WWE wrestlers out there, and I think that it would be a believable feud, and I think it'd be a really hard fought feud between Rusev and Ziggler. I don't like what they're using to build it up, because I think it's stupid, because I feel like Ziggler should almost be like the HBK, like a hard kid of not like, oh, I'm falling in love with Lana. That road, she's gonna turn his back on him and break his something like that. Where
I mean, this whole thing kind of came to a point where Lana and Summer face off, kind of argue, and Lana smacked Summer so hard that she made her nose bleed. And then they kind of did the cat fight thing, which was like, I kind of like, that's when like this whole thing kind of felt very like 1998, 1999, like to me.
Summer got the first, I think, and then
yeah, but whatever happens, all I could see like when the camera zoomed in on Summer's face is like blood rolling out of her nose. I was just kind of like, I didn't catch anything that would like look that bad. But I guess she got rocked at some point during this pull apart.
Yeah. I mean, hey, you know what? A little blood never hurt for entertainment purposes. But yeah, I mean, this was, I don't know. You knew at the start of this it was going to be not a long segment, not a great segment, but building up to what I hope the ultimate payoff is Ziggler and Rusev at SummerSlam.
All right, so like the next part that was like, I guess like really, really like startling to me was to find out that Sheamus is yet again Mr. Money in the Bank, and seeing him wrestle against Neville for a guy who kind of walked away for 2 months for the Money in the Bank to be, being toted by Sheamus is kind of mystifying to me, because I mean, been down this road once before. The guy won, the title, and probably did a whole lot of nothing with it. Not quite sure why WWE insists on shoving this guy down our throats. I guess they figure maybe this time a heel Sheamus will be different, but I really didn't understand that. That was hard for me.
You saw how stupid looking his beard is, right? That makes him a heel.
Not by a kid that's watched wrestling since 1983. Not by my book. I mean, a heel has to do something so dastardly, so awful that the crowd completely turns on him. You can't just come out looking like a fucking retard and expect to get over as a heel.
He was getting a lot of "you look stupid" chants when he first came back.
Yes, he did. But did you hear any of those chants now, except for boring?
I definitely didn't hear the boring chants. I thought that was maybe the were boring chants during this match. I might have not been paying attention and missed it.
It wasn't quite as loud as, like say like Show or Henry type level match, but it was there. It was in the background somewhere. It did sound like a majority of the crowd, I will admit that, but it was there, and it was kind of before Neville really kind of got his shine. So I think it was more a reflection of, we really don't like you, Sheamus, so we're going to chant this, and then it happens to reflect on Neville too.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like they've sort of gone back to the Sheamus being a bully, wanting to beat up all the littler wrestlers. And
oh, so that hasn't been a thing for like 2 months? Okay. I just thought they were still running the same gimmick for like 2 months.
No, it was a gimmick. I think he wrestled Neville, and then I think he wrestled Dolph Ziggler, and I think he's supposed to wrestle Randy Orton at the pay-per-view, which I'm not really sure how that feud got started, and I just think they're trying to just sort of fill the gaps in the pay-per-view, which with a match that could be decent. But there's really no, I haven't really seen a storyline to it. I think Randy Orton's out on vacation right now for a couple of weeks, so hopefully he comes back and adds a little bit to the storyline before Battleground, because I thought I heard the announcers make mention of that match, but I don't really have a background on it. So
yeah, it felt like a guy who walked away for a little bit. It felt like Neville's offense tonight was a little bit more subdued. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but I didn't see anything that really kind of said, wow. Which, for a while there, pretty much every match he'd throw at least one or two things that kind of made you say, wow.
Yeah, well, you know what? I did pick up on a couple of times. And let's talk about the announcing crew for a minute. That guy, what's his name? Byron
Sax?
Yeah, freaking horrible. He's horrible.
Oh, I agree. I mean, let's just go back a couple months when he had to man Raw by himself and completely choked. Yeah, he's not suitable for employment at all, but they're going to keep him because, I don't know, they seem to like him for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I could see him being like the call, but I think they need to center some sort of storyline across his natural personality. I just haven't seen it yet, so I really don't give a crap about it. And I'm not sure that I will, because, I mean, he's pretty vanilla.
The only other thing that I really learned before we could get to the main event is that apparently pushing the IC champion is less important than pushing the King of the Ring winner, because Barrett beat Swagger tonight pretty quickly.
Yeah, I was thinking Swagger got arrested for drugs again, maybe a DUI and drugs again, but
it's possible.
I don't know. What was why is Swagger all of a sudden back and all of a sudden in the shithouse? What's the rationale behind that?
To be honest, if you really want to ask me, I really truly believe it has something to do with JR signing him. He's really kind of like the last guy who JR personally signed and personally vouched for. And him and Vince don't really have the greatest relationship. He has a podcast, on his own, and he runs his mouth, on WWE from time to time. And I think you add that into the fact that Swagger's never really shown a whole lot of it, and you get a recipe for somebody who's just there. To be honest, I'm really surprised he hasn't been released yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't. I was a little surprised. I mean, it was sort of a come down to have him out there and have Cesaro out there not doing great. So, or I mean, Cesaro was great, but I mean, have them both come back after? I mean, Cesaro's probably been gone for weeks. Swagger, can't tell you the last time he wrestled on TV. But
I mean, that's just my opinion. I mean, I have nothing to base that on. I don't have, insiders telling me anything. I mean, just do the math. I mean,
yeah, I was a little surprised at how much of a pushover he was. I mean, I don't know.
What are you gonna do? I mean, if you're Jack Swagger, you could collect a couple $100,000 a year being a loser, or you could speak up and get fired.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think,
and then you're going to TNA and you're Jack Snagger or whatever they want to change the name to, and you're nobody. You
don't get a paycheck every other week.
Yeah, so I mean, really, he has no choice, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, but I was just a little surprised. I mean, it's like a quick match, even for. I mean, I thought that okay, here's like a good, at least a 10-minute match.
In a way, it's a good thing though, because they're giving, for whatever reason, now the booster pack to Barrett. I think Barrett has a better look, has more intensity, is a better worker, has better mic skills than Swagger can ever have. And to be honest, if this was, even based on legitimacy and stuff like that, Barrett has the bare knuckle boxing experience that makes him like a legitimate badass. He really should be further along than he is now. If this was MMA, the guy would be, probably a top star by now. Because he's, him and Del Rio would be like unstoppable. Him and Show, Del Rio, they would be like, the top guys. But I mean, unfortunately, there's a lot of other things that come into it with WWE, and it's kind of held it back. But that's just the odd part about me. It's like King and Ring got revived, basically just to give him something to do, and then they feel like that's warranted enough to push him. But when they gave him the IC belt, even brought back the old school title to kind of revive that, they lost focus after a month. That's just weird to me. Barrett is the absolutely best example of the frenetic, sociopathic booking that WWE has nowadays. They just are ADD addled and just lose their focus so quick, so often that it's just really, really frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I feel like half these matches, I mean, Cesaro's in the mix soon, Sheamus, Barrett. I mean, these guys are decent guys, but it just can't. They're trading wins, and I don't know. I mean, I'd almost rather see a couple of them tag or team up and become a decent or a respectable tag team rather than have a match like tonight, which I don't even think we deserve to talk about.
Which was the Primetime Players and the Lucha Dragons versus New Day and Bo Dallas. Yeah, I mean, that was an okay match, but it's just kind of weird for somebody to walk off the streets and be told that the Primetime Players are now the tag team champions. And, you go from knowing what they were just 6 months ago, which they were basically rumored to be on the, post-Mania cuts 2 years in a row, maybe even 3, to be honest. For them to be tag team champions, really weird. I mean, it was a decent match, but I did notice, as a guy, again, who got to peek behind the curtain a little bit, that Titus's cardio ring shape is a little bit questionable.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? He's a guy who goes in the ring, barks, and does a couple silly power moves. He could be, I mean, he's one of those guys who could be great, but, I mean, he's content being big and good. And fortunately with WWE, I mean, he really does need a tag team partner. He was on the singles circuit and he was wrestling on main event.
Well, you could tell why he's not a single star when he does his runs into the corner. He has no zip, no zag, no, just burst. It's kind of lackadaisical running. And if he was a trainee in wrestling school, he would get barked at, yelled at consistently. He has the fortune of being, in WWE, and so it kind of slides. But dude, like that shit just would not fly if he was training.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I almost feel like they need to send him down there to get hazed a little and sort of get told, hey, this is how you be a real wrestler.
The only other thing we really have left to talk about is the main event, which, the setup at the beginning of the show, Ambrose, Reigns versus Rollins and Kane. Of course, the other two members of the Authority, Noble and what's his face were out there too. I mean, this feels more like a SmackDown main event than a Raw main event. SmackDown's a little bit more notorious for having a tag match pretty much for no reason. So, I mean, this did not interest me. I mean, even though it was an okay reaction for the crowd, it was an okay match, it just felt very SmackDown for me.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, and this has only happened in the last couple months, really. Roman Reigns, he's over. And I think we have Dean Ambrose to thank for that. But, I mean, Roman Reigns, he goes berserk now, and he is over. I think that...
well, he's also, given less time to speak.
Exactly. I think they tried to...
Brian's no longer around, so there's not that comparison. And he's had a couple good matches. I mean, look at the Mania match with Brock Lesnar. I mean, basically it was him versus Brock Lesnar in a singles match, and, Rollins got involved at the end. I mean, I think that job by WWE, that booking, is why that booking was so genius. I mean, that's what's frustrating for a guy who walks away for 2 months. That was the best booking I've seen in a long, long time in wrestling. And for me to walk in and see like the starting segment and some of the other segments in Raw tonight, it's frustrating because I know that WWE can do really, really good booking. I saw it at Mania. Brilliant stroke of booking. They put over Reigns like they had to. They got Brock Lesnar out of the belt contention like they had to, and they made a new star in Rollins all at the same time. So I know that they could do it, and that's what makes it frustrating to watch Raw.
And they kept Rollins pretty much the most hated wrestler in WWE.
Oh, absolutely. And, I mean, I'm just saying, like, right then and there, I told everybody, I said, you can keep on hating Reigns, but, like, a couple months from now, nobody's going to really be siding with you as far from, like, the casual crowd, and we're going to be drowned out, and it's not going to be like Cena anymore. And I'm proven correct. Reigns is pretty much turned around all that hate because it feels like more like he deserves to be where he is. And that, if they keep doing this little bit by little bit, when he wins the world title, it'll feel like he earned it.
Yeah. Like this year, I think like you were saying, I mean, this year it felt like Daniel Bryan. I mean, everybody was going with Daniel, the sentimental favorite. So, I mean, you could have pretty much had a Rock come back and win, and he might not have been over. They wanted Daniel Bryan to win so much. So they're sort of in a lose-lose scenario, a lot like last year where they were forced to throw Daniel Bryan in the main event, and Batista. So I feel like that they did a great job of booking their way out of this without having to resort to a triple threat match again, which would have screamed, hey, lazy booking, or hey, why do we even have the Royal Rumble? But yeah, I mean, I think they've done well with him to really get him over. And now the only problem is, who's he wrestling at the next pay-per-view? Is it Kane?
I thought it was pretty clear, by the end of tonight when Bray comes out and attacks Reigns, that he's working Bray.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean I didn't mean Reigns. I mean Ambrose.
Oh, that's a good question. I really, honestly, I guess they could throw him against Rollins.
Well, no, Rollins is wrestling Lesnar.
Then they really didn't establish a really good place to go with him for Battleground. And I mean, Battleground's this Sunday, right?
I think it's in 2 weeks. It's either a week or 2 weeks.
Well, then, I mean, if it's 2 weeks from now, then they have enough time to still kind of establish what he's going to be doing. But they have to move him away from the tag matches really quickly and establish that really quickly.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know what? His gimmick was great like a month or so ago, and I feel like they're sort of trying to bring him down from the stratosphere here. I feel like, I mean, they pushed him.
Why? He's like dumb, like.
Yeah, but the thing is, the
I
problem is,
haven't watched it 2 months, but man, he's just such a star. Like, I know he doesn't look super great. I know he's not 6'5" and like 285 pounds like Reigns is, but he's so good, man. He's just got personality. He's got charisma. If you just give him some time, man, he'd just be great. He'd be, attitude era level star.
Yeah, no, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think he's superstar all over him. But the problem is, he's going from, the main event to probably a match with somebody like King Bat or Kane, where you don't really, you're gonna, no matter what, you're coming down to their level.
No, I agree with you, because I can't think of a really good place where they've really hinted at him going. I guess the most logical place would be Authority, because, I mean, that's what they did tonight.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like we're gonna get Kane versus Ambrose, and I feel like that's putting Rollins against Big Show leading up to his big push. Where
it's an albatross, is what it is.
Exactly. I mean, unless you're gonna do, hey, you know what, Kane with like an Inferno match with zero build on it. I mean, there's not much that can make that match attractive and appealing to me on the next pay-per-view.
So, I mean, like we went over, I think the feeling from the chat room is that, which we want to thank all the people who came out to talk in the chat room on AngryMarks.com, is that, a lot of their reviews have been a little bit more positive than I think we sounded tonight. I'll be honest, I didn't like Raw at all tonight. I give it like 2 out of 5 stars or a thumb down, but I'm kind of interested in where you would put it.
You know what? Last week's episode made this one look like the best Raw I've seen in a year. It was head and shoulders above last week's episode. That being said, I'd probably give it a 6 to 7, 6.5 maybe. There were a lot of dead segments there, a lot of uncertainty leading into the next pay-per-view. So those are a couple things I didn't like there. Obviously, we've had some tacky segments with Ziggler. The one thing that I really actually hated was during the Neville's match. I forgot to mention this before. When Neville's wrestling Sheamus, JBL probably about 20 times said, "Oh man, Cole is pretty much blowing Neville left and right, saying, oh man, he's spectacular, these high-flying moves, incredible." And JBL is saying, hey, you know what? It's like, he's great and it's amazing, but you never know when it's going to stop because he ain't injured. Or basically, like, with high-risk maneuvers, it's like such a chance. You never know he's not be able to do that anymore. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, especially with Daniel Bryan being out now because of he was the freaking king of the diving headbutt, and Neville's sort of the littlest diving headbutt, a little more backflip off top rope. But I mean, you saw during the match, I mean, he took a fall off the ring ropes and landed pretty bad there. I mean, that's stuff that JBL just can't be talking about when you have wrestlers who are seriously going out, especially when I feel like every other wrestler is doing it.
It's a way to bury them too, because he's saying that their style is not WWE style. That's basically what he's saying. I mean, in his own way, he's basically parroting Vince McMahon. He's saying that style is cool and it's flashy and it's going to get fans to pay attention, but you're not going to last. I mean, that's kind of like JBL's real life persona, bully. I mean, that's what he is. I mean, we know that's Bradshaw's thing. I mean, basically that's the only reason he's on the roster for as long as he was, because basically his job was go in there and ostensibly work with another individual and take advantage of him. He beat up Blue Meanie, for real. He tried to beat up Michael Cole. tried to beat up Joey Styles, who Joey Styles floored him. He tried to pick on Chris Jericho. Jericho put him in his place. I mean, what do you expect from a guy like that?
Yeah, I think it's just short-sighted. I think Vince McMahon should be in his ear to be like, shut the hell up, because Daniel Bryan.
But I think Vince likes that kind of stuff. I think Vince gets off on that. I think he respects that part of him because that's Vince McMahon. I mean, Vince McMahon's a bully.
I think that part, if you and me are talking about it and we're like realists about it, I don't respect it because, I mean, shit, these guys are doing these freaking headfirst dives. I mean, you have freaking, who the hell is it? Like Eric Rowan doing these suicide dives. And I mean, one of these guys gets freaking paralyzed, or, I mean, enough of these guys are out with injuries and getting banged up pretty bad with this high flying style. And I get that it's, not that, but I mean, that is not a great sustainable thing, in the business necessarily long term. But to point out, oh man, these guys, you never know when these guys are going to get injured. Like, that's just sort of, I don't know, just sort of blows me away that he was just harping on that nonstop. Especially when, I mean, they pretty much lost one of their biggest stars, Daniel Bryan.
I think that's Vince trying to talk him into doing more WWE style stuff. He's like, basically, I will never invest money into you. And this is why. Because you can get hurt any day doing the stupid shit that you do. And if you insist on doing it, I'm going to make you look bad while you do it until you succeed to what I want you to do.
Yeah, but I mean, you have Ambrose, you have Rollins, you have Reigns, or not necessarily Rollins, but you have Reigns doing it, you have Rowan doing it, Luke Harper.
Rollins does it in spots, though. He brought it out at Mania. He brings it out at really big matches, and he only does like one big move, which is the Phoenix Splash. He really doesn't do like anything close to what he does Ring of Honor style. And whereas Neville is a lot closer to how he wrestled in the Indies than Rollins is at this point.
Yeah,
would you not agree with that?
No, I definitely agree with that. I mean, he's a lot more high flying. That's sort of his hook. I mean, I don't see Neville wrestling for WWE Championship anytime soon. But at the same time, I see him being similar to a Daniel Bryan type worker, where you do have the crowd behind you, you get your major spots in, and you are an upper mid card draw, or at least a good face draw. I mean, I don't think you're ever gonna see him turn into a heel. I think he's like somebody who can battle Sheamus or one of the New Day or what's his name? Yeah, Bray Wyatt even, or King Barrett. I mean, I feel like he's upper mid card with that. They might throw him in some tag matches there at the top of the card, but I just don't feel like he's not going to headline WrestleMania with that wrestling style.
So would you say tonight was a thumbs up, thumbs down, 1 to 5 stars? Like, where would you put it?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I'll give it 6.5.
So thumbs slightly up.
Yeah. Last week's show was freaking horrible, so I'll give him credit where credit's due. What about you? You haven't watched it in a couple months. Where are we at?
I thought tonight was awful. I mean, between the start of the segment, Show and Henry, and Dolph and Rusev thing, from a guy just walking into that, dude, just made me not want to watch Raw. Just defeated me. And, to the point where, like, I mean, the guys in the chat room will tell you, like, I was just bashing, like, Cena Cesaro. I couldn't even appreciate, like, how good that match was, because I was so, like, just, like, not into tonight.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely I think it was a great show. Or I think it was a great show compared to last week. I think it was a good show overall. I didn't want my biggest complaints, aside from the 2 to 3 segments that we could probably do without, even though you sort of learn to live with it on a 3-hour Raw, is that, I mean, we don't really have any build-up for Dean Ambrose. We don't really have any build-up for Barrett. We don't really have any build-up for Sheamus. We don't really have any build-up for Orton. I mean, the pay-per-view, I think it's 2 weeks away. And I like more than a storyline of just having these two guys bump into each other in the back and getting in a fight, or just getting thrown together randomly.
Yeah, but a lot of today's storylines are like that, unfortunately. I mean, there's really not, we've kind of forgotten a lot of the art of booking, as far as, wrestling's concerned. I mean, there's really not as many inventive ways to have it been done anymore. That's the problem.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. It's just, I mean, I'd be content if they were just putting something together, where, I mean, they were just building a slow burn towards it, even if they did bump into each other at the last pay-per-view or something, and then...
I mean, I know we got to wrap the show up, but that is an interesting question that we can either tackle now or we can tackle later. It's up to Kev, not at me. But would people have the attention span to really go for a slow burn nowadays?
I think so, but I appreciate the slow burns with these some of these matches. I mean, I think that a lot of this is just really, really rushed booking, and I can't tell you, outside of maybe King Barrett and R-Truth, I can't tell you a meaningful feud that King Barrett has had.
I mean, I was just wondering, because I mean, I don't agree. I think a lot of the wrestling fans nowadays, I mean, the majority of the crowd is going to be somewhat casual. Not like me and you, man. Where we're used to seeing some long, drawn out feuds. I mean, I was there for Hogan and Savage. Can't get any more long term than over a year. And I don't see.
I'm talking about something with build up, Harper and Rowan as a monster tag team, and have it pay off. I mean, they are dominant 1 week, and in the next 3 weeks they're off the air. I feel like I don't know what the real intentions are. I don't know if they're going to split. I don't know if they're going to face now or back heel. I mean, I feel like there's just too much trading wins and losses. There's not enough of a constant build up.
It's been a long complaint that I think it's gone pretty far back now of the 50-50 booking. I've heard it for years, and it's still as true today as it was years ago. But I just don't see WWE adjusting that. The only time that they adjust the 50-50 booking is going into Mania, and then any other time of the year, they just don't care nearly as much.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I just feel like a lot of these times, even with a month or two of burn or build up for stuff. I mean, you saw what he did with the Shield and the Wyatt family. I mean, that was spectacular. You're on the edge of your seat following that, and I mean, you just don't. I mean, that was a year, 6 month a year build up. But I mean, that really had people on the edge of the seat. I mean, tease something. You don't have to have every backstage confrontation end up with a match right away. I mean, you can do something. I mean, that's the thing. I actually like about Big Show, Miz, and Ryback is they've actually been building towards this for a month and a half now. I'm not saying that it's a interesting feud by any means, but I'm just saying that this is what they've been actually. It's been a slower burn than you would expect for a match like this. Expect this coming together.
That's the weird part is they seem to, as of lately, be doing that. The Damien Sandow Miz build-up was probably the most long-term burn of feuds going into Mania, and it wasn't even really a singles match on Mania. So they've been doing that a lot lately. I'm not quite sure why. It's mid-card feuds to get the long burns, and then it's the main event feuds get thrown together pretty much overnight. But I think that's all the time we really have tonight for Raw Reaction. I know a bunch of you guys, listeners, that came in to join the Angry Marks chat felt like the show was good tonight. I'm sorry that, I don't agree, but I'm always going to kind of say what I have on my mind. That's kind of what my whole gimmick is. And, Vic kind of slightly disagrees. He's kind of more in your guys' camp. He gave it more of a thumbs up than he did a thumbs down. So we got quite a different, a couple different viewpoints on tonight's Raw. It was kind of an interesting Raw. Especially for me, coming in off a 2 months hiatus, just walking in cold, not knowing what was going to happen, not reading any spoilers, not catching up at all, just kind of taking it all in. And, I hope you guys enjoyed the show nonetheless, even though if you don't completely agree with everything that I have to say.
I think people don't completely agree with anything I have to say. And I really don't care because I have a podcast and they don't. So.
Well, there you have it. On behalf of Vic and Killer Kev, this is Rob the Many, and this has been your Raw reaction for this week on 6/30/2015. Thank you all for listening. Please do us a favor. Subscribe on iTunes to Angry Marks, and it'll automatically download this episode. And stay tuned for all of our other various shows. There are quite the myriad, plethora of podcasts available free for all of you for supporting a very long tenured wrestling podcast network.